There are precisely 3 words that will handle any sales objection you'll ever encounter. I don't care if they say, I need to think about it, I don't have the money, I need to talk to my spouse, or it's too expensive. These 3 words work every single time. I'm Jason James, and in my 10 years plus of generating over £22 million plus in personal sales, I've heard every single objection you can imagine. But once I discovered this 3-word method, which I learned from my psychiatric nursing background, I never struggled with objections again. In fact, last month alone, I used these 3 words to turn I can't afford it into a £15,000 sale. I need to think about it into an £8,000 sale, and my husband will kill me into a £12,000 sale. And by the end of this video, you'll have a simple, repeatable system that works in any objection, with any industry, and with any prospect. And I'm going to prove it to you with live role play examples on this video. Now, before I reveal these 3 words, let me show you why traditional objection handling fails so miserably. You see, most salespeople have been taught to overcome objections. They argue, they present more features and benefits, they try to logic their way through emotional resistance. This is the worst possible approach. For example, when someone says it's too expensive, most salespeople will say something like, well, let me show you what the value that you're getting. Or, if you break it down monthly, it's only X. Or, can you really put a price on your success? Okay, you've heard it all before. Now, what happens in this situation? The prospect digs in deeper. They start defending their position. They come up with more reasons why they can't buy, right? Here's what I learned in psychiatry that changed everything. When someone gives you resistance, they're not giving you their real objection. They're giving you a symptom, and you can't solve a problem by treating the symptom. Think about it. When a patient came to me saying, I can't sleep, I didn't immediately get sleeping pills prescribed to them. I had to find out what was really keeping them awake. Was it anxiety, depression, physical pain? The insomnia was just a symptom. And sales objection work exactly the same way, okay? I need to think about it isn't really about thinking. I don't have the money isn't really about money. I need to talk to my spouse isn't really about talking to their spouse. These are all symptoms of deeper concerns. And until you uncover the real objection, you'll never, ever handle it, all right? Now, look, this 3-word method, for me, is powerful. So look, what are these 3 words exactly anyway? Well, here they are. It's what else specifically. That's it. These 3 simple words will transform your sales results forever. Here's how it works. When someone gives you an objection, instead of trying to overcome it, you dig deeper with what else specifically. Now, let me show you why this is so powerful. First, it shows you're listening. Instead of immediately defending your product or trying to convince them, you're showing genuine interest and understanding of their concern. Secondly, it uncovers the real objection. Most people don't give you their first real concern. They give you, the socially acceptable one. What else specifically helps you dig deep and get to the truth? And thirdly, it makes them think. When you ask this question, they have to stop and actually consider what's really bothering them. Often they'll realize their initial objection wasn't the real issue. And fourthly, it gives you the control of the conversation. Instead of being on the defensive, you're now in the position of a consultant trying to better understand their situation. But here's the key. You don't just ask it once. You keep asking it until you get to the root cause. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 rounds of what else specifically to uncover what's really going on. Now, let me show you exactly how this works with real examples from my business, okay? I'm going to role play both sides so you can see exactly how it works, okay? Here's example number 1. I need to think about it, okay? Now, prospect will say something like, this sounds great, Jason, but I need to think about it. Now, most salespeople would say, what do you specifically need to think about? Or how long do you need, right? But here's what I say. I understand. What else specifically is concerning you about moving forward? Prospect says, well, it's a big investment. So what do I say in response? I get that. What else specifically makes this feel like a big decision? Prospect says, honestly, I've been burned before by other coaches promising results and never really delivering. You see what's happening here? Well, now we're getting somewhere. The real objection isn't about thinking, it's about trust. So guess what? I addressed that, all right? So I would say something like, that makes complete sense. I'd feel the same way if I'd been disappointed before. what specifically happened with those coaches that left you feeling burned? See what happened? We went from a vague, I need to think about it, to the real issue. They're afraid of being disappointed again. Now I can actually help them work through that concern. Make sense? Here's another example. Example number 2. I don't have the money. So the prospect will say, I love what you're offering, but I just don't have the money right now. Now, what would most salespeople say? They say, well, we have payment plans, or what if I could get you a discount and all that kind of stuff. What do I say? I understand, money is tight. What else specifically is making this investment feel challenging right now? Now, the prospect might say, well, business has been slow lately. And to my response would be, that's tough. What else specifically is contributing to the business being slow? Now, they might reply with, I'm not getting enough leads, and the ones I do get aren't converting very well. So what do I say in response? So if I understand you correctly, you're not generating enough revenue because you're not getting quality leads, and you're not closing the ones that you already get. What else specifically is preventing you from fixing these issues? And the prospect might say, I don't really know how to do either one effectively. Now the real objection is clear. They don't have the money because they don't know how to generate, they don't have the money because they don't know how to generate leads or close sales. Now my program solves this exact problem. So what do I say to them? Sounds like the real issue isn't that you don't have the money, is that you don't have the systems to generate money consistently. Is that fair? Now the prospect might reply with, yeah, do you know what? That's exactly right. And then what do I say? Well, that's precisely what my program is designed to fix. The question isn't whether you can afford to invest, it's whether you can afford not to. Does it make sense? Got it? The third example is a very common one. I need to talk to my spouse, okay? Now the prospect might go, this looks perfect, but I need to discuss it with my husband first. Now most salespeople will say, what do you think he'll say? Or can we get him on the call? That's a classic, right? What do I say? I say, of course, that's smart. What else specifically do you think he'll want to know about this decision? Now the prospect might say, he'll probably ask about the cost and whether it's really necessary. So now my response to that would be, those are good questions. What else specifically might concern him about you making this investment? See, I'm digging again. The prospect might say, well, I spent money on business stuff before and it didn't quite work out. Now I might say, I see. What else specifically went wrong with those previous investments? And the prospect will say, I didn't really follow through on implementing what I learned. Can you see what's happening here, people? Now we're getting to the real issue. It's not about the spouse, it's about her track record of not implementing. So what do? I address that. So it sounds like your husband's real concern isn't the money, it's whether you'll actually use what you learned this time. Is that true? Is that accurate? And the prospect will say, yeah, that's probably it, right? Cool. Well, that's exactly why my program includes weekly accountability and coaching calls, all right? It's implementation plus support. The whole system is designed to ensure that you actually do, not just learn. Now, would that address his concern? You see the pattern here? In every case, what else specifically helps us get past the surface objection to the real underlying issue? Now, let me give you some advanced techniques to make this method even more powerful than what it already is. Okay, technique number 1, the empathy bridge. You could say something like, before you say what else specifically, you could acknowledge their concern first and say something like, I completely understand that concern. What else specifically is making this decision challenging for you? All right. Now, this shows that you're not dismissing the objection. You're just trying to understand it a bit better. Okay. Technique number 2, the permission ask. Sometimes ask permission before digging deeper. Would it be okay if I asked what else specifically is concerning you about this? Okay. Now, this makes them feel more comfortable about opening up, especially if it's a sensitive issue. Technique number 3 is the assumption check. After they give you the objection, confirm your understanding. So if I understand this correctly, the real issue is X, not Y. Is that right? This ensures that you're addressing the actual concern. Technique number 4, the multiple layers, okay? Don't stop at the first what else specifically. Keep going until you hit bedrock. Sometimes the real objection is 3 or 4 layers deep, okay? You saw earlier, I kept on asking it, right? And technique number 5, the emotional component. Once you uncover the logical objection, ask about the emotional one. What else specifically are you feeling about this decision? Often the emotional objection is more important than the logical one. All right. Now here's a pro tip. The tone of voice is crucial. You're not interrogating. You're genuinely curious about understanding their situation. Think consultant, not prosecutor in a courtroom. Got it? Now, here are some of the biggest mistakes I see people make when they're trying to use this method. Okay. Mistake number one, asking too aggressively. If you sound like you're interrogating them, they'll shut down. Keep your tone curious and helpful. This is very, very important. Mistake number two, stopping too early. The first objection is rarely the real one, right? Keep asking what else specifically until you get to the root cause. Mistake number three, not acknowledging their concerns. Don't just fire questions at them. Show them empathy and understanding for each concern that they raise, okay? Mistake number four, trying to handle every objection. Sometimes, after you uncover the real objection, you realize they're not a good fit, and that's okay. It's better to know now than to waste both of your time. Just move on, okay? And mistake number five, forgetting to actually address the real objection. Once you find the root cause, you still need to handle it. Don't just keep asking questions forever. Remember, the goal isn't to manipulate them into buying, it's to understand what's really concerning them so that you can help them make an informed decision. All right? So there you have it, the 3-word method that handles any sales objection. What else specifically? The simple question that will transform your sales conversations because it gets you past the surface objections to the real concerns underneath. And once you know what's really bothering someone, you can actually help them work through it. So many sales are lost by not doing this. But look, here's the thing. As you know, knowing this stuff and implementing it correctly are two completely different things. It takes practice to master the tonality, the timing, the follow-up questions that make this technique so powerful. Like, you've got to take time to practice this stuff, which is why I teach all of this in my Closing Incubator program. It's a 12-week intensive privately with me, one-to-one, where we practice objection handling through extensive role-play sessions until these responses become automatic for you. All right. I've used this 3-word method to generate over 22 million plus in sales, and my clients have gone on to generate over 200 million using these exact same techniques. And the best part, you never have to feel pushy or manipulative because you're genuinely trying to understand and help. Now, if you want to master objection handling, if you want to turn every no into valuable information that helps you close more sales, comment objections below and I'll send you my complete objection handling playbook. It includes 47 different ways and variations of how to say what else specifically in different situations. And if you're super serious and committed about transforming your sales results, if you want the complete system with live coaching, practice sessions, time with me, then let's have a conversation about the Closing Incubator, because let's be honest, okay? Objections are obstacles to the sales. They're actually opportunities to understand what your prospect really needs. And when you understand what they really need, you can help them get it, all right? So comment objections down below and let me show you how to turn every objection into a stepping stone to the close.